Have you already been to Albania, or are you familiar with the dragon sections in Romania? Well, on TET Portugal, you'll encounter several dragon sections every day, and some are even more challenging. No wonder the locals recommend using a proper MX bike without luggage for this. So get ready for the ultimate TET challenge, where you might face your limits and beg for chicken wings. It doesn't take very long and you'll face the first challenging section, a rocky little hiking trail leading into a canyon. Once you reach the bottom, you cross a small bridge, and after that the ascent is at least as rocky again. We decide to ride back along the familiar route rather than risk seriously damaging our heavily loaded bikes. No idea if that was ultimately the easier solution. The whole section is just a small detour into the wilderness before leading back to the main road a few kilometers later anyway. But holy, what a start! Sometimes you might get the feeling that some TET sections aren't really traveled that much. Summer in Portugal also brings some rather unusual challenges: bushfires. These are truly a serious matter and can quickly become a deadly trap when riding off-road or wild camping. Since new fires can break out almost every minute, it's important to constantly monitor the current fire situation. Extremely helpful for that is the Portuguese fire app Fogos.pt. It worked great for us, and we can't relate to the negative reviews on Play Store. In addition to that, we used Google Maps since it also shows huge bushfires. Here you can see our bushfire situation, and it was pretty bad. Therefore we unfortunately had to skip the 2 TET loops to Braga and Lamego.
Hier haben wir heute Nacht geschlafen. Und dann war um uns rum überall Feuerwarnung. Das haben wir dann gesehen, weil die ganze Zeit kam Flieger vorbeigeflogen. Jetzt sieht man auch, es ist nicht mehr so schönes Wetter.
Another extremely difficult section called Stone Steps is at this mark. We checked out the spot and decided to bypass it. It is narrow, very steep and has high ledges. Probably fun on a proper hard enduro, but simply too much risk for us with our heavily loaded bikes.
Ich sehe dein Äuglein nicht. Warum bist du so? Influencer-Model.
In the beautiful Serra da Estrella National Park, you can take a small detour to the parking of the Serra da Estrella mountain peak. It is the highest mountain peak in continental Portugal and it's really worth it, especially in clear weather. Not far from the national park, things get exciting again. From here, a longer section begins with extremely steep gravel ascents and descents. And yes, it looks ridiculous on video once again, but believe me, it's almost vertical.
Das war krass. Nein! Ein super Burger.
On the southern part of the Portuguese TET, you pass two nice sites that are worth to make a quick stop. One is the impressive Convent of Christ Aqueduct in Tomar, and the second one is the Geodesic center of Portugal that also is a beautiful viewpoint.
Naja, auf jeden Fall ist es zufälligerweise an der allerhöchsten Stelle von diesem Berg. Das könnte ja auch 5 Meter weiter unten sein, aber nein, es ist genau auf der Spitze von diesem Berg.
Da sind wir beide. Vom Zentrum von Portugal.
The entire southern TET is more moderate. That doesn't mean it's easy, but instead of being rocky with lots of loose gravel, the trails here are more sandy. In this area the sand gets deeper and deeper. It's actually quite good to ride on, but at one point there's a steep climb where we had no chance of making it up with our setup. As the landscape increasingly started to look like a rainforest, it was time to head to the coast, where the weather was forecasted to be better. Along the southern coast, you pass through countless eucalyptus forests and eventually semi-arid hill landscapes where the terrain continuously goes up and down, sometimes in challenging conditions. video ends where the TET meets the Portuguese adventure country trek in the very south. The Portuguese ACT is more comparable in difficulty to the other trans-European trails. However, we will introduce this one in a future video. Thanks for watching.